Yo, what's up, everyone? It's your boy Jack OATz to go. You either know or you don't. And if you do know, you know that Yuno has a complete form of spirit dive now, which is incredibly insane. It is called the Spirit of Boreas. Now, it's no secret that Tabata here is referencing the four gods of the winds, Boreas being the north wind. But what is kind of interesting is the design that Tabata chose to give Yuno in this form of the Spirit of Boreas. So, in this form, we can note that, of course, it's a full spirit dive, but the weapon of choice is interesting. We have a halberd here, and this doesn't equate to any lore of Boreas that at least I've researched. In fact, Boreas and his three other brothers, which do include Zephyr, only are attributed to having wind powers and being associated with stallions. So using this halberd is a really interesting choice of weapons, and I'm wondering what the motif behind this is. Now, if we look at Xenon's grimoire, he has weapons on it, and some of those weapons being a halberd. He has two that are across the spade. So this could possibly mean some relation to Xenon in some way or another. And while I don't like that idea, this is the only way I can make sense of why a halberd was chosen specifically. Now, aside from that, the Spirit of Boreas is also interesting because Boreas, as we know, is the god of the north wind, or is also attributed to the icy winds. So I wonder if something down the line that we'll be able to do is maybe access different types of wind. This one maybe being a colder variety, and then possibly being able to unlock some ice-related spells. Not having ice powers per se, but some ice-related spells to influence his wind. I think this is what we're heading towards. And something else that's kind of interesting about this is that we see completely just kind of delete Xenon's midsection with the spear end of this halberd. And when you look at Boreas' name, it is believed that Boreas came from the word wind, or a derivative of, but in Greek terms, Boreal is the devourer. So I'm wondering if this is going to add on to this Spirit of Zephyr application of his magic, where he's able to fight devils and devil users using this power and become arcane through this. But that's all I want to say about the Spirit of Boreas, because some other stuff happened that was really interesting. So as we know, Yuno goes into this spirit dive mode, the Spirit of Boreas, and completely overrides Xenon's spell of absolute space. Now, what made this really interesting was that the mana that Yuno was using was from the area. He's got his own power, but the mana did not concede to the absolute space that Xenon's devil had, which means that pretty much has the upper hand in almost any battle that he's going to be in, especially if it comes down to just manipulating mana. And we see that it's really overpowered the way that Xenon uses it, because to negate a spatial magic spell that's intent is to erase things, to disrupt the mana enough for it not to work, means that it is definitely absolute. However, with Yuno, being just the hack to this, it it just kind of blows it away and makes him the perfect counter for Xenon. Where we were all thinking, what Xenon actually says in this chapter is that you guys brought him along in hopes that he would counter my spatial magic, but bad news for you, I just control this space in the most absolute way possible. And I think it was a really good turn of events because that was the route we were thinking. We were like, they could bring Longreese, possibly Finral, Voltos could be on this fight, who knows? But having Yuno being the exact counter to this because he's loved by Mana was a good twist on Tabata's part. So I do like that about this. Now, we have to remember from the Elf arc how we kind of got a similar thing where they were fighting Licht, and Licht was moving through the air without being noticed, and that's even due to just eyesight or mana detection. It even surpassed Ki. Asta had no idea where this guy went when he moved, and before they knew it, before they could react, as you can see, they were still standing where they were. They had no idea he was right in front of them until it was way too late. So this is going into the next topic here. Now, if you've been a fan of the channel for a while now, you know that I do believe that Licht is pretty much like the great grandfather of both Asta and Yuno, especially with this turn of events that we had with Tetia surviving with one twin. I do believe that this is still the case, where we have Yuno, who is absolutely loved by Mana, where Mana will not leave his side, even in the case that Mana is disrupted and should not be allowed to be used in a certain space, in an absolute space. And then you have Asta / Liabe, where he is absolutely hated by Mana, where Mana won't even touch him. So with this, I want to reiterate and kind of reinforce the fact that Liabe and Yuno, or Austin Yuno through Liabe and whatnot, it's confusing now that Liabe's in the mix. It's hard to really push this forward, but they are definitely connected, and I want to actually go back to something I said in another video where we have to remember when facing Zagrid that Asta and Yuno end up growing proportionately. When Asta was completely tapped out, because remember, they were fighting Dark Elf Patri, they were fighting all kinds of elves. They were fighting Patri himself, and then ended up fighting Zagrid. So, and they were fighting Licht as well. They were both just tapped out. And Asta was unable to really go any further, but Yuno, being so desperate to be useful in a fight against the devil, where we know that arcane mages are the only ones who are useful, created the form, the Spirit of Zephyr, to become an actual asset to the fight. And as he creates this form, that is the first time we see the Black Divider. And this creates this good panel of them side by side, both with their new acquired ability, with one wing on each side. And I think this kind of pushes this forward now. We know that Asta and Liabe have this 50-50 unification spell. So I am pressed to believe that by the time we see Asta, he is going to have both of his wings as well. And I don't want to take the shine away from Yuno. I know this is a Yuno chapter, it's Yuno season, but we can't talk about Yuno without talking about Asta, because they are in fact connected through Licht in some way or another. And like I said, in my belief, I do believe that Yuno's power is what Liabe's power would have been. And just to kind of go over just really quick what I have said in a video about that is that during this reincarnation spell, I believe that Liabe's power was taken, not his spirit or soul, if you will. if Liu happens to have the the wind magic that Tetsuya had, that means the other twin would have had the sword magic with the light base that Licht had. And if Licht sacrificed one of those sons, Liu being the son that he sacrificed, then it would make sense that his soul went into the Klippa. And especially with Licht being an apostle of Keter, specifically, this could make a lot of sense. So with the magic being taken in the reincarnation spell without the soul, and then Yuno acquiring that amp when the reincarnation spell was in full force, then the powers growing proportionately does make sense, and the connection between Austin and Yuno would be completed. Another way to go about this would definitely be that Yuno is from one line of descendants of the... No, I don't even want to say that, actually. I'm going to stick with the Liu being the connection here. I do believe Liu would have been loved by Mana, where the twin also probably would have been loved by Mana. But it's just hard to say with what we have. But this is all a really interesting development. Yuno is definitely making leaps and bounds, but I do want to remind people that this fight is not over. I like I said, I don't want to take away from Yuno season and Yuno having his moment finally. But would we really be happy with just a complete one shot with Xenon? I don't think so. Especially with a fan base that Xenon does have. I think Tabata would end up dropping the ball ultimately, having him being one-shotted by Yuno. This can now put Yuno in a great position, and ultimately gain more experience and power through a hard-fought battle with Xenon, who has this absolute defense, which is now not so absolute, and an absolute offense, which is now not so absolute. So it's going to be interesting to see how Xenon overcomes this obstacle that Yuno presented. But that's kind of all I wanted to say. This has been a really cool chapter, and I'm just very curious to see what other developments Tabata will be putting into this, because moving forward, we now have, Liu whole backstory. We kind of got Asta's backstory. Now we can start getting into Yuno's, who and why he is. We know he's a Grinburial. Possibly. This halberd does put some ifs behind that. And if you know me, I don't exactly trust every single person that comes into the series and just says something. So even though Ralph does say, like, oh, you were part of the Grim Burial family, we do see, this halberd that Xenon also has on his grimoire. He does share some likeliness. He's got black hair. Black hair is pretty rare in Black Clover, honestly. And I don't know, you guys. So this is just going to be really cool to see. I'm along with the ride with you guys. But I'll probably be talking about some more stuff. And before I forget, one of the things that I found while researching Boreas, I found some stuff on just a really fun fact about the four-leaf clover, where the four-leaf clover is absolutely attributed to like luck, wealth, love, and some other crap. Good fortune and all that stuff. But there's also a bad side to it, which no lore actually goes into. They never explain what the bad side to it is. But, as we see, the four-leaf mages are susceptible to becoming, overcome with despair, and thus creating the door for a devil to come in and into the real world. Although it might be different for humans, we don't know that yet. We've only seen a four-leaf elf go into despair 2 times now. So we can't say for sure that it will happen to a human, but as far as four-leaf mages go, we can kind of say it. So we're kind of half and half on it. But one thing about the four-leaf is that when someone finds a four-leaf, they are granted the ability of sight, where they can see fairies. And of course, has Belle. So I think that's really interesting that Belle was foreshadowed way before we even knew about spirits. So that's interesting. Now, another thing about the four-leaf is that they're able to not only see devils, but repel them. So, being a four-leaf mage could actually make him, in a way, arcane, in a sense, if the purpose of a four-leaf is to ward off evil spirits and devils. So this could be some more things that we can find out later on about the four-leaf grimoire, because we don't know much about it. We don't know much about grimoires, period, but especially the 4 and the 5 leaves. So, like I said, this could also just be the reason that is able to get into fights with devils, that he is arcane via the fact that he just has a 4-leaf clover. And while that just is a very simple explanation, that could very well just be the case, given the lore of shamrocks and 4-leaf clovers. So that's all I got today. Let me know what you guys thought about this chapter in the comment section below. And you guys have a great holiday weekend. I know you guys are probably on break and stuff. I've got tons of work, so I'll be putting out videos when and if I can. But if I don't see you guys before the holidays, before Christmas, and before the New Year's, you guys have a great time with your family. Stay healthy, stay positive. We're going to go into 2021 amazing. But it's been your boy, Jack OATz to go. You either know or you don't.